Okay, so we come to the studio to finish. Sorry, Abotsi, Professor Abotsi, you will have the last word as our guest joining us via Zoom. And I was asking about the one thing that is on your mind that has to be done.
Well, it's important for us to appreciate the fact that we stand in a very difficult moment of history as a country. We'll have to decide we're at a crossroads. We have to decide whether it is business as usual, whether it is just a footnote in our history, or whether it will represent a major chapter. I would argue that this should represent a major chapter. These people have paid with blood. They paid with their lives, never to get it back again. We do not have to exercise the option of treating this as yet another chapter, another aspect of the business as usual attitude that we've demonstrated towards this. We have criminal laws in our Criminal Offences Act. We have criminal prohibitions in our Environmental Agency Act. There are rules already existing. We don't even need to go to Parliament, which actually criminalizes environmental degradation, which criminalizes the pollution of our water bodies and water sources. We would have to implement these. We do not have to constantly do the political calculus and ask ourselves whether a person involved is politically connected. So that if it's politically connected, well, we don't have to enforce the law the way we have to enforce it. We have treated environmental crime as if it's a sub-crime. Environmental crime is a regular crime, and it has to be implemented as such. So I would like to urge that as this has presented itself something of a brutal opportunity, brutal and a sordid opportunity, for which people have lost their lives, this should be a moment of national awakening. It should be a moment of national reckoning. The United States had 9/11, and it redefined how it approached the treatment of terrorism. The United Kingdom and other countries have had their moments of national awakening and reckoning. And these should represent a new chapter for us to now show a new collective resolve that this grief we have suffered, this tragedy we have suffered and endured, this moment in our national chapter should represent a clean slate, which should demonstrate our resolve never to tolerate again. Because some people in their quest to make money at all costs will decide to poison the entire country, will decide to, as it were, endanger our lives, our food chain, our water bodies, and our water sources. And because these persons might have sort of financed political enterprises over the years, political actors will now have to look beyond to look beyond, if you like, those shackles, the shackles of political financing, by reason of which the Nanado government, many will argue, paid a price for not fully going against galamsey, by reason of which some people continue to question even the current, in terms of fully going against galamsey. The sheer price that the current president has paid, somebody he deeply, deeply trusts, has been lost. And his key officers have died to this. I'm confident that the president is going to come out of this a different person. And I'll be delighted to see that different entity of the president that will see the people who have to pay the price will no more have to be the average Ghanaian, but the criminal corporates indulged in galamsey.
Help me, I want to be sure about this. You're a member of the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey?
I am, yes.
You're also a member of the One Ghana movement. Both bodies have issued statements. And in the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey statement, they say that the bloody price paid should imply that, as a country, the persistence of the menace can no longer be tolerated. As a demonstration of our utter disenchantment, the coalition hereby with immediate effect call on the media and all Ghanaians to stop calling illegal and irresponsible mining as galamsey, but rather as environmental crime perpetrated by environmental criminals to reflect the reality of the forces opposing the good of the environment. And then among the demands that they make, they say there's a need for targeted state of emergency to apprehend the forces persistently fueling this environmental crime and gradually bringing our country to its knees. Targeted state of emergency. Can you explain that briefly, finally, for us?
Well, this is a calibrated request, and the reason is because it appears that the question of declaring a state of emergency has garnered some political controversy over the period, and the coalition doesn't want to get bogged down once again in the controversy. Some people have argued a cost-benefit analysis, saying that declaring a state of emergency generally, either in the whole region or in a whole district, or even in the whole Ghana, on galamsey, could be too costly. The issue of timelines, the issue of thresholds, and some other issues are things that may not have been necessarily evaluated over the years. So to avoid the loss, the potential loss that Ghana may suffer if we declare a state of emergency to our national life, to avert that, we should just not declare it. So this call is calibrated to reflect that concern. Essentially, I urge it that maybe we can have a targeted state of emergency, and a targeted state of emergency could involve targeting the specific subject matter involved, targeting the specific area involved, targeting the personalities involved. We may even have to declare a state of emergency for particular entities. So this one is just to reflect the distinction between the generality of state of emergency declared either in an area or affecting a particular enterprise, as opposed to a more nuanced but carefully defined and calibrated state of emergency dealing with this.
Okay. This statement is signed by Kenneth Ashigbe, Professor M.A. Akudugu, Senyo Hosi, and Darrell Bosu. And I refer to the One Ghana movement statement also. And in a part of that statement, they say the movement urges the government to support the bereaved families and hereby calls for the institution of a government-funded group life insurance policy to cover the dependents of government appointees. We must protect the families of those who elect to serve our country. This should be where I get your final comment on.
Yes, I absolutely support that from One Ghana as well. But I would like to add, I'll hasten to add very quickly, if you allow me, Samson, the fact that I think as a country, and I'm sure perhaps the government is thinking about that, maybe we should consider the day, I'm talking about the 6th August, we should consider that day a day of national commemoration, perhaps a day of patriots or a day of the environment, but some commemoration in remembrance of the people who have paid the ultimate price, but also as an opportunity to reflect on how the environment could cost us all.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I come to the studio, but we take a quick break before we do that. A couple of messages I share with all of you who are